Welcome to another episode of Curtain Call Conversations. I'm here today with Vinny Coyle, who is currently in the touring production of Calamity Jane. How are you today?
I'm very good. All the better for speaking to yourself.
Oh, you're
No, I'm
very
very, very
sweet.
excited to be here.
Ah, excellent. I mean, the show I just mentioned before we started recording, I saw the show in Birmingham. Absolutely loved it. So, how is it all going for you?
It's been an absolute it's been a beautiful whirlwind, is what it's been. I can't quite believe the reception the show's had.
Yeah.
We've been so lucky with the responses to the show, and I think just how close everyone feels to it, which
Mm,
is amazing. I wasn't quite aware of how big the following was for the show.
mm.
So to be a part of that history now is great. And the audiences on the road have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
So we're very, very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your leading lady, obviously Carrie Hope Fletcher, in the leading role. You've worked together before, so I mean, the connection between the two of you on stage, I have to say, is brilliant. I thought it's such a wonderful sort of friendship. I guess it's kind of a love-hate friendship in the show, of course. But you clearly get on very well in real life. So, what's it like working with Carrie again?
It's like coming home. It's
Yeah,
really, really lovely. Like it's our third job together. We
yeah,
did the Les Mis concert together, on to Cinderella,
yeah.
and then this. So, and we've been friends for I think nearly 7 years now. So
Mm,
it's really, really lovely. And it's just the trust we have on stage,
yeah,
is pretty epic. And that's especially for these parts. It takes a lot to make that believable, especially
mm,
night in, night out.
yeah,
We'll have good days and bad days, but
yeah,
actually we're as tight on the stage as we are off the stage, which is so lovely to have and
yeah,
very rare.
yeah,
It's very, very rare that you can really trust someone as much as we can. So, and we
yeah.
love it. It's just we have so much fun every night.
Yeah, you can tell, absolutely. So tell everybody all about who you play.
So I play Wild Bill Hickok, who was an actual real life cowboy.
Mm.
He's pretty much as he was in real life. Really, he was a professional gambler, professional actor. He was a sharpshooter, and that's kind of what he is in the show, really. And then he gets to sing some lovely songs as well, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. But I love it. It's such a cool character to play. I was brought up on westerns with my granddad,
Okay.
and we watched a lot of old Clint Eastwood stuff. I was brought up on Magnificent Seven, the original one. I'm a huge
Yeah.
Steve McQueen fan as well, so it really feels like I've kind of almost done a 180 in terms of coming back to what I used to watch as a child.
Yeah.
To have the chance to be a cowboy on stage is pretty epic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you must be loving your costume then.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I tried it on, I mean, we're so lucky that obviously they're all, we've all had costumes handmade for this, which is
Yeah.
amazing. But it's just little things like the first time I put the gun belt on, the first time I got to play with the guns.
Yeah.
It's such a, a masculine thing, isn't it? Of that thing of
Yeah.
like, oh, get to play with guns. But actually, and little things like wearing the cowboy hat and getting used to that, because
Yeah.
it becomes part of the character. But it's amazing. It's like a dream every night. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it, and I will make the most of every moment that I can with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm always really quite interested speaking to performers about the rehearsal process for a new show. And obviously this is I don't know whether is it the first time we've ever seen this production or
So they did it at the Watermill 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It toured very briefly,
Yeah.
with Jodie Prenger playing Carrie, playing Calamity, and Tom Lister playing Wild Bill.
Ah, okay. All
And
right.
it did a short tour, but it's changed a fair bit since we last saw it. That
Yeah.
production, it's still Nikolai's production,
Yeah.
and Nick's, and Kathy on at this time, Kathy J's, um, but it's been tweaked and pulled apart, and I suppose brought into the era that we're in now in terms of actually being able to talk quite deeply about some of the the agendas on that are spoken about in the show, which is
Mm,
great.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but the rehearsal process was fantastic, so
Yeah.
fantastic. Like, and we were able to come in and put our own stint on it, which was
Yeah,
lovely.
that's yeah, yeah.
It was very, very much right. How do you see this? What
Mm,
do you think about this? We did this last time. Would this work for you? If not, sometimes they did.
yeah.
Um, and it was a great piece, so there was no need to change. But
Mm,
sometimes, Carrie and I'd have a chat, and we'd go, okay, maybe that doesn't work for us, or what
Mm.
about if we added this in like an extra layer of detail?
Yeah.
And it was great. We loved it, and we had, it was a nice period as well. We rehearsed over Christmas, so
Yeah.
we had sort of 3 intense weeks, and then we had a week off for Christmas, and then we came back for a couple of days um, before we moved into Aylesbury, which was
Mm.
yeah, it was great, and it was. I've never done an acting muso show either, so for
Okay.
me, it was quite an amazing experience because normally
Yeah.
for musical theatre productions, you come in, you do the sorry, I'm warming up on the piano. You do the 4 or 5 weeks rehearsal,
Yeah.
and then at the end of that, you'll meet the orchestra or band or accompaniment.
Yeah.
But in this process, we had obviously live instruments from about day two,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was pretty epic. So
Yeah.
it was so nice to be able to have that experience, which was great.
Yeah, it makes such a difference to the whole production, I think. I mean, they're
It really
so
does.
talented. Yeah, I mean, it just brings the whole thing even more to life, I think. And it's quite a high energy musical as well. So these, actor musicians are dancing around the stage with
Yeah,
cellos strapped to them and all sorts. I mean, it's really quite
yeah.
impressive. Yeah.
It's to watch what they do is phenomenal. It
Yeah.
really, really is. To be able to do and play the way
Mm.
they do
Yeah.
and act, sing, and dance
Yeah.
at the same
All at the
time,
same time. Yeah.
all at the same time,
Yeah.
most of the time at the same point is mind blowing.
It is.
And it's I the first time I picked up a guitar was to play for this production,
Yeah.
and I've been taken under the wing by some pretty epic people, which is really really nice. So hopefully, the more the tour unfolds, I'll have a bit more time to sort of sit and play. And
Yeah.
but they're amazing. They're amazing. They're a whole different level of incredible, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
it's pretty epic.
Yeah, it is. I mean, do you have a sort of a favorite moment that you perform in the show?
That is a great question. The Hoedown has a great reception every
Yeah.
night.
Yes.
That's really really nice.
Yeah.
Um, I have I have the luxury of singing Harder Than a Hawk every night, which is
Yes.
a very different version to Howard Keel's version,
Hmm.
which we now do just as an acoustic piece, which is
Yeah.
really lovely. Um, and that's a glorious song to sing. I feel so lucky to sing that every night.
Mm.
Um, and then I suppose staying with Wild Bill and Calamity, I Can Do Without You is an absolute blast every night. We
Yeah.
have so much fun doing that every night. And that was one of the pieces that we really pulled apart and remade for myself and Carrie, which is really,
Yeah.
really nice. So that's like our little baby, which is lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the chemistry on stage between the two of you is brilliant. So anybody that's heading to see you, I'm sure they'll have a fantastic time. So what's the touring life like for you? Do you enjoy it?
It's I haven't toured since before COVID. I was on the
Okay.
Phantom tour just
Okay.
before we finished. Actually, in Leicester Curve, we
Okay.
were at the Curve we were supposed to be there for 8 weeks, and then we got pulled because of
Yeah.
obviously because of COVID.
Yeah.
Um, so I haven't been on the road for a long, long time. And I think the last time I was on the road was 2018,
Okay.
which was with the Saigon tour.
Yeah.
Um, it has its challenges.
Yeah.
It also has its pluses. You get to see the UK. We are so lucky.
Yeah.
There are so many amazing places, and the venues we go to are stunning.
Yes.
Traveling around the country, seeing all the amazing theatres that we have and theatre spaces that we have around the country. We are so lucky.
What is the favorite sort of touring location that you've actually been to so far?
So touring, I mean, I love them all, and they're
Yeah.
all very different, which is great. Like I say, life on the road is strange. It's always
Yeah.
strange, especially with weekly tours,
Mm.
because you're never there for long enough. The first tour I
Yeah.
did with Saigon, we were there for 8 or 9 weeks,
Mm.
so you could really get to know the place. And
Mm.
Carrie and I, we just been out for lunch, just popped down the road, and I said it would be so lovely if we had at least 2 weeks here, because then
Yeah.
you get to do the beach, or you get to do, you get to settle down. Whereas
Yeah.
because of the show schedules, we arrive on a Tuesday, we do 8 shows from Tuesday to Saturday, and then basically we're gone, which
Yeah.
is always crazy.
Yeah.
But in terms of, there are a few venues. You came to see the show in a special venue for me, so you came to see the show in Birmingham,
I
which
did.
was the first time I ever covered and played a lead role.
Oh wow.
And I was 21, I think. So right at the beginning of my career,
Wow. What
and
was
it was the
that in?
first time I'd ever. It was Miss Saigon. I went on
Ah,
for Chris the night after
ah.
press night.
My favorite show of all
Um,
time, by the way.
it's an epic show. It's
Yeah.
an epic show. Not as epic as this, but it's an
No.
epic show. But no, it's a very special venue to me. That venue, and then I love Dublin as well. There's
Yeah.
something about Dublin as a city which I adore. It's just a beautiful, beautiful venue. But also, there's so many places around the country that took me by surprise and
Yeah.
still do to this day.
Yeah.
I'd never done Nottingham. We've just done Nottingham. So all the venues that I've never been to before as well, they all take you by surprise. And you go back older, wiser, slightly grayer, and you find different things. So
Yeah.
I don't to say I have a favorite venue. I'd be lying,
Yeah. It's a
really.
bit
Do you know what I
harsh. Yeah.
mean? Because yeah, it is because everything has they all have great coffee shops, which is fantastic. As
Oh,
long as you've
yeah.
got a great coffee shop, you're a winner in my book.
Most important. I mean, that show schedule means you need a lot of caffeine, I would imagine. I mean,
Yeah,
how do you cope with the energy levels when you're sort of constantly on it, then traveling to the next place?
I think it's home time at home for me is a
Yeah.
big one. Being
Okay.
able to go home, see my wife, see my family,
Yeah.
that's a nice way to kind of recharge the batteries. My Sunday is very much, unless I'm traveling, I sit on the sofa and I don't do anything.
Yeah.
If the football's on, I watch the football, but apart from that,
Okay.
nothing else.
Yeah.
And or the Formula One or whatever's on the sport channels.
Yeah.
Um, but normally caffeine is how I get through the week, really.
Yeah.
But also, I love this job. I love it. So that I feel so grateful and
Yeah.
lucky that I get to do what I love. I get to work with somebody who I really like. As you said before, we get on like a house on fire.
Yeah.
I'm a cast are epic,
Yeah.
and it's actually quite a quick musical. We're in and out, so
Yeah.
it's a lovely piece to kind of get in. Hopefully, we leave people feeling incredibly happy in the strange world that is 2025.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a win-win job for us, really. And we get taken care of extremely well by Jamie Wilson Productions and the
Yeah.
team that we have here as well. So we're lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, can we just briefly talk about Miss Saigon, seeing as we've mentioned it just then? Because
Yes.
it is my favorite show of all time, and
Yeah.
anybody that hasn't been in it, I'm just like, wow. I mean, how do you deal
Yeah. Yeah.
with, like, as an audience member, I'm just sobbing. Like, I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that as a performer? Because it's really hard, it's really hard, and it must take it out of you because
Yeah.
it's an emotional show.
I think all of those shows, I've been very lucky to do Saigon, Les Mis, and Phantom. You sort
Yeah,
of, the the big three, as they're called,
yeah, they are.
um, and they're all intense.
Yeah,
And I've had the
very.
luxury of sort of seeing them from different angles as well, which is lovely. Going from ensemble to covering to
Mm,
playing now the lead roles, um, and you kind of embrace it, but also sometimes, especially Saigon, I'd go through a show and not notice the audience are there
oh, wow.
because it's so intense as a piece.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when I was on for Chris, the first 40 minutes of the show, to maybe 30 minutes of the show, you don't leave the stage.
Yes.
So once you start, you've got all that epic, you right from sort of the top and Dreamland all the way to Last Night of the World.
Yeah.
You don't leave the stage.
Mm.
And that's literally it's an epic journey. I have a similar one in this in Act Two,
Yeah.
where I once I'm on the stage in Act Two, I come off a woman's touch, and then basically I'm on the stage for the entire rest of the
Yeah. Yeah. You
performance,
are. Yeah. Yeah.
um, until right at the end.
Mm.
I won't give away any spoilers,
No.
but it's one of those things that sometimes it's really encouraged an audience, and it's amazing how different audiences are.
Mm.
I find that the southern audiences are a lot more polite, and not I say they're polite. A lot like everybody's polite, but in terms of internalized,
Yeah.
and the further you get up the country, the more raucous it becomes, which is great in its own way. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So,
Mm.
and for certain bits of the show, there's such a journey. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
fantastic, and that's why going up and down the country for us is lovely because we
Yeah.
get such a different response in every venue that we
Mm.
have to adapt the show. So the show naturally changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, Saigon was a special show. It's one of those ones that you have a bit of everything in. Um,
Mm.
And I had my ensemble track, and then I covered both Chris and John
Oh,
in
did
in
you?
that
Oh,
as well.
wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
so I
Wow.
got to sing, the luxury singing Why God. Well, in the same day actually. One day I sang Bouidoy and Why God in one day. I did
Oh,
the
wow.
matinee as John, and then came and did the matinee as Chris, the evening performance as
Would
Chris.
scramble my brain that you would have to do one role in the afternoon. And I mean, how do you even do that? Like, where's all that information?
So I think so. My first job was a swing. So on Les Mis, I started as a swing. I was 20, 21 years old when I did Les Mis for the first time.
Wow.
It was an amazing, what I call training camp in how to
Yeah.
go straight into the industry.
Yeah.
It was probably a bit too much too soon to swing for me
Okay.
at 2021 on
Okay.
my dream show.
Yeah.
But I learned so much from it. And then what I learned from that was I probably never wanted to swing again,
Right.
because for my brain just couldn't cope. So
Mm.
many tracks.
Yeah.
There was I think 12 to 14 tracks I think I did
Oh
in Les
my
Mis,
God.
which is in terms of my mind was just too
Wow.
many.
Yeah.
And what I realized from that is I really like to work in detail.
Hmm.
Um, and I knew I eventually wanted to lead shows. That's what I've always dreamt of, and that's what my aim's always been with myself and my agent.
Yeah.
Um, but the stepping into covering then felt almost like a breeze because it was only
Okay.
two covers.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, easy. Two shows plus my own track,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And it's, I have some pretty mental stories. Like, so, the night after press night for Chris, I was on. I had an hour and I think 10 minutes on the stage. Go through what you need to go through, and then you're on, and that's it.
Wow. Yeah.
And then Phantom was pretty early as well when I went on in Phantom. I think that was less than a week into the shows.
Oh, wow.
Our leading man got I think COVID or something.
Oh,
At that point it was
yeah.
rife with illness and whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I got thrown on then as well. And it's an amazing experience. I think you need to have the right mindset for it, just to be thrown in the deep end and like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, but it definitely makes me a better principal and a
Okay.
better leading man now for that experience.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a big believer in sort of earning your stripes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you have an appreciation for when you go on as well.
Mm.
And then when you eventually get to do it every night, you have that feeling of, um, not whatever gets thrown at you, you can adapt. But I've been thrown in situations where I go on mid-show or I go on 5 minutes before the call, and you
Yeah.
just go, cool, okay, fine, let's do it.
Wow.
But this time you get, I get much more detail and I get to settle into it every night, which is lovely. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, you must have nerves of steel. That's all I can say. I mean, that's that's really impressive. I'm really impressed by that. So it's been wonderful chatting with you, Vinny. I could chat to you for hours. I love it. I love the conversation and the shows you've been in. It lovely, brilliant. So tell people why they should all come and see Calamity Jane.
So it's an amazing show. The cast are sensational. Someone asked me the other day to describe the show in 3 words, and I
Okay.
said whip cracking fun. And I will absolutely stick with that
Yeah,
because it describes the show really in 3 words. I
absolutely.
think in 2025, I mentioned briefly earlier, it's a strange time. The world is in a
Mm.
weird place at the moment. The reason you should come and see Calamity Jane is because it will make you smile. It's that beautiful golden age of musical theatre that is full of love, joy, and laughter, and that's exactly what I hope you will come. When you do come and see the show, that we will offer you. It's just great fun, and it's a joy to do every night.
Absolutely. So I shall put on the next slide where people can get their tickets and see you for the rest of the tour. But thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay. You're very welcome. Take care.